Over the years, I've been able to use a lot of different cameras from a lot of camera manufacturers, and for the most part, no matter what brand they've been, what sensor size, whatever it is, I've been able to get the images that I need to get out of them, or the results and the performance that a camera manufacturer has promised, whether it's cameras that I purchased myself or things that I was renting specifically for a certain job. They've always almost come through, but there are a few that stand out as the cameras that I, in and of myself, would never recommend to absolutely anybody, whether because of bad performance, bad build, or just all around complete and utter shitty engineering. I'm looking at you, Osmo Pocket 3. These are 5 cameras that I will never recommend to anybody. Number 1, the Ricoh GR3, Ricoh GR3X. I absolutely love this camera, and some of my favorite images from a few years back were captured on this camera. It's small, it's portable, that lens is sharp, and the images that come out of there, specifically the black and whites and black and white conversions, are just stunning. It's a great compact camera that has one major flaw, and that is the fact that the build quality is complete and total dog shit. I've had 2 copies of the Ricoh GR3, and both of them had the horrible scroll wheel of death issue. A lot of people will come out and say there's workarounds for this. You can either spend maybe once a day, a week, a month, whatever it is, spraying some kind of cleaner inside of there to get the contacts to work and spinning everything about 1500 revolutions. The other solution is just to super glue the scroll wheel down in place to where it never moves again. And why the hell would I do that? The reason why this camera is a hard pass for me whenever it comes to recommendations is because this will happen on every Ricoh GR3 body, period. And again, I understand that you can turn stuff off, you can super glue stuff, you can gaff tape stuff, but the point is, if you're spending $1,200 on a camera, wouldn't you want it to work? Camera number 2 is a camera that a lot of people absolutely love, and it's a very cool camera, especially if you've never used another film camera from this brand, and it is specifically the Leica M6. It was good enough, it did everything it was supposed to do. If you put nice glass on the body, it takes great photos. If you put shit glass on the body, it takes shit photos. It does what a film camera is supposed to do. But there was one issue with it, and it's the fact that it, to me, isn't a better built camera than the Leica M4 or the Leica M2, and the meter isn't as good as the Leica M5. And every time I use a Leica M6, it feels cool because the aesthetic of it, but the Leica M6 doesn't scratch all the itches that I have from the other cameras that are objectively better in many regards. The build on the M4 is better, and honestly, I think that the M4 just feels better in hand. I never had an issue of, is my film actually wound correctly whenever I use the M4. And whenever it comes to the M2, I like the size, I like the viewfinder, and I just like the feel of use whenever it comes to the M2 more. That manually controlled frame dial is absolutely top-notch 100%, and even more, the actual rewind knob instead of the little rewind lever. Why do we go away from rewind knobs? That is way easier to just grip on something and twist than it is to use that tiny ass lever when you have large hands. Tiny ass lever, I hate that rewinding shit. And you have the M5, which god-tier, absolutely god-tier light meter built in. It just, the Leica M6 is, as I've heard from one person, just a Leica M4P with some electronic internals and a nice logo slapped on the front. So in my opinion, ditch wanting a Leica M6 unless you have to feel cool, and get yourself a Leica M5 or a Leica M2 and spend the rest of the cash on some really nice glass. You may be sitting there looking at the screen and saying, well, D, is there anything that you can recommend? Well, today might be your lucky day if you're in the market for a pair of affordable, budget-friendly, quick-charging, dust-proof, water-resistant, active noise canceling, and very comfortable pair of earbuds from today's channel partner, Raycon. I've been using these pair of Raycon everyday earbuds for the last couple of weeks to accompany me on all of my hikes and while I'm whistling while I'm working sitting at a desk. They've gone everywhere with me, and when accompanied with this nice stylish protective case, I haven't really had to worry about it. They can handle the elements, handle a drop, and more than anything, continue to give me great, fantastic sound. When I say affordable, I don't mean cheap, because Raycon believes that every single person should have happy ears whenever it comes to listening to their favorite podcasts, movies, TV shows, and of course music, with high quality audio with a great, fantastic build. And they believe this so much that with every pair of Raycons, you get yourself a 30-day money-back happiness guarantee that includes free shipping if you're not satisfied with your purchase. It shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg just because you want something with active noise canceling, water resistance, wireless charging, 32-hour battery to accompany to the gym and to your place of work. And right now you can go to buyraycon.com/drosa. That's buyraycon.com/drosa and get 20% off your first order. So check it out out for yourself, you only have something to gain. And thank you to Raycon for being today's channel sponsor. Camera number 3 is one that every time I mention I didn't like it, I get shit on for it. And that is the Fujifilm X-T4. Awesome looking camera, does cool things, I'm sure. It does not, what the manufacturer says it doesn't do that well. This camera is supposed to be able to handle a high buffer rate even with its SD card, and every time I used it in any kind of assignment where I'm shooting fast, I'm skipping frames, losing frames, having the thing lock up on me, thinking I'm taking images and it's never saving, reading, writing anything to an open, free, unused, nothing on there, completely formatted card. Horrible, horrible experience. I had 2 copies sent to me from Fujifilm and they both shit out on me on assignment. I think my buddy Dorian Coleman even had the exact same issue with one of his copies. We just talked it up to being a, pre-production model unit maybe, I don't know. But then I purchased one for myself and was using it as my B cam, and I had the exact same read-write issues. I don't know what is up with that, if it was a firmware issue, a firmware update, if it was the XF lenses I was using, maybe not pairing badly, but there were just a lot of bad things coming with that camera body. I hate the flippy Audi screen thing. And that's just a personal preference, of course. That doesn't mean it's the flippy Audi screen's bad. It's great if you like it. Me personally, I just prefer a monitor like I'm using right now. So yeah, poor performance. It didn't live up to the specs that Fujifilm said it did, at least for me. Stress test your shit and hope for the best. But with the X-T4, it failed. The 4th camera is one that I will never recommend, and I will say it with my chest. The Canon R6 Mark I. I know people have said, well, they got an update and the colors are better, performance is better. That camera was overhyped as shit, and I'm really sad that I got to use it for the couple times that I did. In theory, it's a really cool and good camera because it has the words Canon on top of it, but other than that, not really. I would actually recommend the Canon R8 over that any day, even if you can get it at the R6 at a cheap price. Whenever it comes to things like video codec, they aren't as flexible as other manufacturers like Panasonic, like Fujifilm, like Leica, like Sony. Whenever it comes to taking photos, that buffer does fill up quite a bit. The autofocus was never what it was touted as. In a real environment, at one point I said the XH2S from Fujifilm was miles ahead of the R6 and everyone threw a hissy fit, but the issue is that was absolutely true. And to go along with the R6 not really getting the job done, the autofocus not being what I was told it was, and the tracking not being what I was told it was, the biggest issue was the colors looked like absolute horseshit. And people say, yeah, they sent out an update and it fixed this kind of. I don't really buy it. The colors out of that are really, really weird. Canon, I feel like, was purposely trying to brick that camera and make sure that it didn't upend the R5 or anything else. And so it's just a matter of Canon just trying to brick something so it's not too good, so that people will buy the more expensive one for the better colors, the better autofocus performance, etc., etc. The last camera that I will never recommend is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Absolutely, without a doubt, horrible design. I mean, like, it looks cool, it sounds cool, the marketing behind it and the fact that people got their hands on these, were able to do some cool stuff. Yeah, it's great. Whenever it comes to actually creating on the go, creating immediately, if you don't have an extra 15 to 30 seconds before you're setting up a shot or doing anything else to be able to add on ND filters, to be able to orient the gimbal the way you need it to be able to focus on what you need, to be able to adjust your settings. This camera is not a run and gun camera. This is literally like you have a gimbal, but every time you have your regular camera on a gimbal, you have to take off every filter, you have to rebalance it, and you have to reposition it every single time. It's just not worth it. And it's a shame. It's a really cool form factor, but again, having something you have to pull out, flip, now I want to record vertical, got to flip back, got to press all these cancel buttons, all these things. It's a pain in the ass. And a lot of people will think this is nitpicking, and maybe it is, but at the same time, just do better with your products. And honestly, if you know your filters are really damn big, why would you release a really damn big filter that won't allow the gimbal to shut correctly every single time? That's on you, DJI. You fumble the bag yourself. So yeah, those are the cameras that I would never recommend to anyone. Take this with a grain of salt, or don't. I don't give a shit. They don't pay me. Take it light, but take it. Have a good one.